is another episode of Community Connections. As always, I am your host, Anna Orr, and this is airing right here on OROMIA11. Today's guest is candidate for Hennepin County Attorney, Martha Holton Dimick. She will be with us talking about the tenets of her candidacy, as well as some important things around community and police relations. This is going to be a really great episode, and I think a surprising tidbit about how she's taking care of herself on the grueling campaign trail. Stay tuned. Today's guest is no stranger to the Twin Cities. I'm very excited to have you join me today. Can you introduce yourself?
Yes, my name is Martha Holton Dimick, and I am running for Hennepin County Attorney.
Thank you for joining me. Now, I'm sure you are very busy, so we won't hold you too long today, I promise. It won't make you sweat too bad. Can you talk about what the experience has been while you've been out on the campaign trail talking to the community?
It's been very, very interesting. I've met a lot of interesting people who are very concerned about what the Hennepin County Attorney's Office does. And I need to let people know that what I'm trying to do is rebuild the trust and restore the effectiveness of the office. I've worked in the Hennepin County Attorney's Office for over 10 years. I was the first community prosecutor. And then I went over to the city attorney's office, and I managed an office as the criminal deputy of over 60 prosecutors and staff.
Wow.
And then about 3.5 years later, Governor Mark Dayton appointed me to the bench. So I was not only a Hennepin County attorney, I was also an administrator and a judge. And I've worked in the community for many, many years on restoring the effective public safety. I'm very concerned about public safety. I've always been very concerned about public safety, and I've worked very hard during my tenure in public service to do so.
So you've talked about working in so many different positions across the landscape of law for our community. Can you share what the Hennepin County Attorney does specifically for people that are unfamiliar with the role?
Okay, yes. The Hennepin County Attorney's Office prosecutes all adult felony crimes and all juvenile crimes. And the whole purpose of the office is actually to provide protection for victims and to also make sure that criminals are held accountable and have consequences for the crimes that they commit. The office is the largest and the busiest office in the state. We process over 600,000 cases a year, and those cases are processed through the office so that we do take into consideration and realize exactly what types of legal issues need to be processed.
Okay. Now, working in all the different positions that you've held, what was the one thing that came to you that said, I need to jump in the ring to actually become Hennepin County Attorney?
Well, Anna, what really upset me was after George Floyd's murder. We were, as a bench, the judges on the bench were pretty outraged and wanted to speak out and wanted to assure the community that we understood the difficulties, the stress, and the frustration that the community was going through. We can't do that as judges. As judges, we have to maintain a certain amount of fairness, and we have to show that we're impartial. And so I thought, I can only affect one family at a time while I'm on the bench. And living in North Minneapolis for over 20 years, I felt that I needed to do more for my community. And so I thought we needed to do some very systemic changes outside in Hennepin County. So I made the decision to retire as a judge and jump into the race. And primarily because of the amount of crimes that I saw in my neighborhood. We are looking at over 90 homicides in North Minneapolis alone. And quite a few or several of the victims were children caught in the crossfire. That was completely outrageous for me. I thought, I can't put up with this any longer. I have to be more involved. And so I made the decision to retire and get into the race.
I think that's very powerful to not only try and affect change from the bench, but for you to then say, I feel like I can do more without this role currently. You talked about being a Northside resident for the last 20 years. What have you heard from your neighbors about their hardships and or points of opportunity or successes in the community?
It's very frustrating to hear that people struggle to get an adequate education. They struggle with raising their children. They struggle with housing, being able to put food on the table. And people are very tired of the increase in crime in our neighborhoods. There are certain areas that we see open drug dealing. We, of course, have experienced a tremendous amount of violent crimes in certain areas. People in my community are tired of that, and they want to see change. And then we see the struggles with law enforcement, and what has law enforcement done with our community. And as far as making a change there, and including law enforcement and the radical changes that we need to see in our community, I voted no on that ballot. And I voted no on that ballot because my community members were telling me we need the police officers, but we need strong and we need very good police officers, and we need police officers that are invested in our community. So that's why I voted no. I have to work with law enforcement. I do believe there are drastic changes that need to be made internally with the Minneapolis Police Department, and I know that my community wants to see those changes, but we need to work together to make sure that those changes are due for our community and are also going to be beneficial to our community. So that entails we have to rebuild the trust in the law and law enforcement, and it's going to take time to do that because a lot of damage has been done over the years.
True, very true. I read on your website that you talked about working with community organizations to improve police relations. What have you heard the community organizations who are boots on the ground doing some of this work talk about in reference to the police and community relations?
They want to see the police involved in a positive nature in the community, okay? Back in the day when we had the community prosecution program going, we had boots on the streets. We had community policing. That of course was when we had a full complement of police officers. We also had community leaders working with the police department. We had the police departments attending community meetings, being involved in the narrative, being involved in the communications. We had the churches involved. We had the mosques involved. We had neighborhood organizations. Everybody worked together collaboratively to make it work and to keep eyes on the streets 365 days of the year. Back in the late 90s, when I worked with the Hennepin County Attorney's Office, we brought crime down to such a level that the Minneapolis Police Department got a national award. And that was primarily for the amount of juvenile crime that was lessened during that period of time. I'm talking between 1999 and 2009. We had 7 homicides in 2009. Last year we had 46. So we're right back up again, and we're at a dangerous trajectory, and we've got to hold our communities and our neighborhoods accountable. We have to start paying attention what's happening in our neighborhoods.
Can you talk about some of the solutions or some of the keys that you would like to run on to implement once you actually are in the role as Hennepin County Attorney?
Well, primarily, we need to get violent crimes down. Right now, the Hennepin County Attorney's Office is inundated with cases. We have an overwhelming number of cases because of the pandemic. And unfortunately, we had a number of very experienced attorneys retire. So we have to increase and improve our training, and we also have to put more emphasis on hiring more experienced attorneys. I also want to pay attention to the violent crimes. We have some serious violent crimes that have to be addressed and prosecuted immediately. And as far as the gun violence, I want to institute a task force that will address that issue immediately the minute I step in that office. I have tried cases, and I know how to charge cases. I know what it takes to charge cases. And we have to use that experience. I use my experience. I draw on those experiences to say that I am the most qualified person to handle these situations from the day I step in that office, and that I want to be successful. And in order to be successful, I have to be able to collaborate with all of our justice partners, and that includes law enforcement, corrections, probation, and our specialty courts. We have to all work together. That's what is going to make it work. We have to stop pointing fingers, stop playing the blame game, and just put all of our resources together so that we can attach the multitude of problems we are going to be dealing with.
Currently, there's been an uptick, specifically in quarantine, in juvenile crime with car break-ins and properties being vandalized, schools being broken into, things like that. What is one way, or maybe a multifaceted way, that you see we can begin addressing some of that issue with our juveniles?
We need to coordinate with families and with educators. If we want to get our kids back in our homes where they belong, we also have to have preventative and intervention measures available in the schools. I'd like to see prosecutors in middle schools. I'd like to see prosecutors in the high schools working with the teachers, working with the administration to try to teach these kids that there are better avenues to take in terms of a life of crime. We have to interrupt that right away, immediately. I think we need to make sure that we have resources available for these children. After school resources have been cut since the pandemic. Also, I noticed that when I travel throughout Hennepin County, I see some of the fantastic facilities for these kids to go to. We don't have these facilities in North Minneapolis. We don't have positive facilities where these kids can learn a craft, learn how to dance, learn how to skate, do whatever, anything positive to get them off the streets. I'd like to see more programming addressed at making sure that these kids have positive mentors, positive activities that they can get involved in. I also think that when we're dealing with the carjackings, we need a place, a secure place for these kids to be safe and for our communities to be safe from the children until these issues that they're struggling with, which include trauma, drug addiction, mental health issues, they're addressed. And they're addressed completely so that these kids, these children, our children, can be returned to their families. But we have to coordinate the families in this treatment modality. We have to coordinate the schools. We have to coordinate teachers, social workers. We have to have, they say we need a village. No, we need a whole county. And we need the legislature, and we need everyone buying into the trajectory that we want our youth to become successful members of society. We've got to be more encouraging and more positive.
I think you've shared some really relevant points for people to think about before they get their opportunity to vote, but also some ways in which we can address things that we see on the news every day.
Yes.
And I think a lot of our communities feel frustrated about what can we do, what's too much, what's not enough, where to put the money, where are we going to get the money from. So to hear that you have a plan, but also you have a frame of reference, not only being in the community, but holding the titles in which you have. Now, I'm sure the campaign trail is very grueling and very tiresome. How do you take care of yourself?
Oh, that's so important. I'm glad you asked that. I work out. I get plenty of sleep. I was told by several people, this is my first campaign, I've been told by several people who are quite experienced in running, get plenty of sleep. I work out. I also do yoga. It's very important that I eat right. That is not something that I do very well. I like sweets too much. But my husband has we have a huge vegetable garden, so he's been feeding me off of our vegetable garden. And I read a lot. I read a lot of self-help books. And I talk to people that I really trust to give me some incentive and to also encourage me to keep doing what I'm doing. It is very exhausting. And at this stage of the game, I am tired. I'm not going to deny it. But I try to just keep up. I try to keep my energy level up, knowing that what I'm doing, I'm hoping for once it's going to have a positive effect on my community. I love my North Minneapolis community. That's why I'm still there. And I'm learning to love the rest of Hennepin County too as I go along on my campaign trail. There are wonderful people out there. There are good people out there, and I want to take advantage and draw from their energy too. I've had so much support, and I know that I'm doing the right thing. I know I'm the best person for this office because I can draw on my experiences, not only trying cases, charging cases, but also presiding over cases and watching how some of these traumatic situations affect not only victims' families, but also the defendants' families. I take that into consideration too. I hear from the victims' families. I also see the heartbreak in the defendants' families also. And no one is unaffected by crime. And the communities are affected by crime. We're all affected by crime. That's why we all have to weigh in, and we all have to do what we can, to turn the narrative around and to make our communities way more safe for people and for our children.
I read this quote on your website: "A thriving community is built on a foundation of public safety. We must rebuild that together."
Yes.
Can you talk about what had you not only believing this, but wanting to take this effort to the streets?
My community, my immediate North Side community has been so strong. I've lived in two different areas, one over by 7th and Vincent, and then now I live over by Golden Valley Road in Washburn, and I've always had very strong neighbors. I have a fourplex on one side of our house. We're on the corner. The fourplex is on one side of our house, and it's a home for women who are working that have children. They have subsidized housing. We have entertained those kids in our backyards. Our whole entire neighborhood is so cohesive in terms of neighborhood parties, neighborhood barbecues. It's just the energy of everybody coming together regardless of what their social status is, because we have a very eclectic and very diverse neighborhood. My other neighborhood over on 7th and Vincent, there was a drug house right next door to us, and it took the whole entire neighborhood along with the police department, and this was back in the early mid-90s, and also the city council members that helped us get rid of that drug house. But we all worked together. We had a system in place. We worked very cohesively with the police department. We actually did some rather dangerous things by taking down car numbers of anybody that came over that wanted to buy drugs. We took down the license plates numbers. But we eventually, within a few months, got that drug house out. But the house was re-inhabited by the original owners who left and came back and just, took part in making that neighborhood thrive. So it just took the energy that I've seen people working together. I think all neighborhoods should be like that. I think that, that's an excellent example of what we can do in all the neighborhoods in North Minneapolis and then some. That's what gives me the energy to say that a community can thrive and be successful if we are all in it together for very positive reasons.
Can you share with our viewers any of your social media handles and or your website address for people that want to stay connected with you, may want to donate or read up more information on your points of focus for your campaign?
Okay, I know my Twitter, and my Twitter handle is Martha4, the number 4, Hennepin. And then my website is Martha4, F-O-R, Hennepin.com. There's a wealth of information on my website, also how to volunteer, just to give suggestions if you need lawn signs. We have plenty of lawn signs to distribute. And I will make myself available to anyone. If you reach out to my website, you can probably find out what my personal email is and also what my personal phone number is. I have given my personal phone number out to very select people, and they have called, and I've had some very interesting and very good conversations. So I'm open. In fact, when I become the Hennepin County Attorney's Office, my office door is going to be open, and I'm going to be accessible, and I'm going to be in the community, and my attorneys are going to be in the community, because we're going to make sure the community knows that we work for them. We're going to increase our communication skills, and we're also going to make that office a heck of a lot more transparent than what it has been, because a lot of people really don't know what we do and why we make the decisions that we make on a given case. We want to make that information way more transparent.
Well, we are definitely coming down to the wire before it's an opportunity to see what the outcome of this campaign is going to be.
Yes.
All the best to you moving forward, and thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for inviting me.
Connections. Martha, is there one lasting message that you'd like to share with the voters?
Absolutely. I want to tell everyone out there that I am going to work for the community, and I'm going to work very hard for the community. I have what it takes to make this a very successful office, but it's not going to be successful unless I have everyone working with me and working in the communities to make our homes and our communities safer for everyone, including our very special children who are our future. And so if you want to get involved, just check out my website. If you want to get in touch with me, also check out my website, because I want everybody involved in my campaign and helping me win, because I am the perfect county attorney for this office with my background and my experiences. Thank you very much.
I hope those that are interested would reach out to Martha via her Twitter page, her website. There's a wealth of information there, and we look forward to staying tuned and to supporting you as you go forward.
Okay, thank you very much. I really appreciate this opportunity.
Absolutely. That is all the time we have for today's guest. A special thanks to Martha Holton Dimick and her team, Letitia Townsend, and the rest of her candidacy. I am so excited to have had her join us today and to provide us with some very valuable information, as we are really close to November 8th, Election Day. Now, we in no way, shape, or form are telling you who to vote for. However, it is my job and goal to empower you with the best information possible so that you can go and cast your vote feeling confident to support those near and dear to you. Thank you for joining me, and I look forward to connecting again soon.